Hi everyone, how's it going? First of all, I want to say, as always, how are my fellow TIs doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope life is treating you relatively well in spite of everything that you're going through. Let me know in the comments how you guys are doing, how things are going for you. And also, I want to make a note of some TIs who have been DMing me and stuff like that. I'm sorry that I haven't been responding. I've just been quite busy with the readings, and also I'm going to be traveling traveling tomorrow. So if I've been too busy to respond, please don't take it personally. Thank you for messaging me. Thank you for commenting. But I am really quite busy at the moment. But yes, let me know in the comments how you guys are doing, how you guys are getting along, and I'll get back to you as quickly as I can. Now, I'll provide a short update before I get into the reasons why I'm making this video. So, short update on me. Gang stalking is still going on. I've been getting a lot of weapons being fired at my head, but it's like a light erosion that they're going for here. It's a light erosion that are, attacking the back of they like to attack this area right here, and I think that's affecting my memory and my speech. But again, I have to look up the parts of the brain that they're hitting again and, and go from there. But yeah, I feel like they are trying to create some sort of dementia or some sort of, but they're always doing that. They're always firing weapons at your head and trying to create dementia. And also they've been firing weapons here a lot and on the breast area. So yeah, it's still going on, but the thing is that if it was really, really bad, then you'd definitely be able to tell. The reason I'm able to speak so clearly and, and still have the vibe that I have is because they're not really hitting me that hard. They're like kind of going for a slow erosion here. They're not really going for anything really, really big. They could if they wanted to. But I think they just want to keep it as low-key as they can, because the last thing they want to do is turn me into a martyr. So that's what they're doing. They're torturing me still, but they're keeping it relatively low-key. And instead of saying certain things, that now it's just like coughs here and there, and it's boring. It's boring to even talk about, let alone acknowledge. Like, it's boring. It's boring as hell. Like, oh boy. Like, I think the whole point of, the taunts and the gaslighting and stuff is so that I'll get online and start ranting. Yes, okay, so there are a couple of things that I want to bring up. The first thing is that I had a little black bag with like cash in it. Because I had made a sale from Black Brighton Market on Saturday. So I had a little pouch with cash in it. And I'd completely lost it. I was looking for it everywhere. And when I say I lost it, I don't mean I lost it in terms of my temper. I mean I'd lost the little pouch. And I wasn't panicking. But I was a little bit angry at myself, to say the least, because it had about like what? I had about 5 10s in there, like 50 in there. Well, not 5 10s, but it had 50 in there. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to, I don't know why I'm trying to speak in code. It was £50, right? So I had that little black bag and I looked for it everywhere in the flat. And I mean, I looked everywhere in this living room, because the thing is, it's a very small living room. There ain't no way that I'm going to lose something in this flat and it's not going to show up, right? And I looked in particular behind the bed, because behind the bed, there was nothing there. There was nothing there behind the bed. So I lost that on the 4th of November. That's when I lost it. When I found that, because the thing is, right, when did I go to the shop? I think I went to the shop on Sunday because I wanted to pick a couple of things up. Before I went to the shop, behind my bed, there was nothing there, right? So I go out to the shop. Behind my bed, there's nothing there. I go out to the shop, and then I come back, and then I notice the pouch right there behind the bed. I'm thinking that there ain't no way, because it wasn't there before. So that means somebody came into my flat while I was at the co-op and put the bag there. So whoever put it there, they must have found the pouch. They must have found the pouch and kept it to themselves before they could figure out what to do next. And I think what actually caused that was, before I went out to the shop, I'd actually called the Samaritans, and instead of doing what I usually do and talk about my feelings while skating past the MI5 stuff, because I know MI5 and Samaritans are attached, because I know Samaritans are attached to MI5, and MI5 are basically using Samaritans to gain information on people, I use this as an opportunity to basically just say, look, I know what MI5 are doing. I know what the fuck they're doing. I've been talking about the correspondence that I've had between myself and MI5 with Samaritans. And I was talking about the anger that, you know, this whole gang stalking situation leaves me with, and the deliberate misdiagnosis leaves me with, and the genocide that misdiagnosis facilitates, all that stuff. Like, all the bullying against me has basically facilitated genocide. So I'm over here like with this residual anger inside me, and I can't do anything with it, because if I do something, then I get locked up. There are people out there literally harassing me and bullying me, and creating genocide with it. And for those who are confused, you know, those who are confused, go and look back on my other videos. I explain everything. So they're doing that and they're getting away with it. And it's making me angry. So it's like after that, and then after I go out to the shop and come back, you know, when I go out to the shop, that's when I do that boring shit. And then I come to, it's not the staff doing boring shit. It's just some of the customers walk in, do some boring nonsense. It was after I had the conversation with the Samaritans, I felt a little bit better. So I went out to the co-op, came back, and the black pouch was sitting there. And I'm like, ain't no fucking way, bruh. I lost that thing on the 4th. And you mean to tell me that that pouch shows up in my flat 8 days later? Mate, you're taking a piss. At maximum, and I mean at maximum, in this flat, I have misplaced something for 3 days. At maximum. And I mean at maximum, because this flat is small. There ain't no way I've lost something in here for 8 fucking days. And I don't know what, like, there is no way. There is no way. So somebody picked up the pouch, kept it to themselves until they figured out what to do, and then they put it back behind the bed. That's what the fuck they did. Because you got people breaking in here all the time. But it's like, you know, no, absolutely not. There is no way you're... That's what I mean. These people think they're slick. It's ridiculous. Do you understand what I'm saying? And I feel comfortable talking about this because I don't, you know, I do tarot readings, but the tarot readings are not viable. I don't get that many customers. So it's not viable. It's not viable enough for it to be an issue. So that's what I mean. Like, these people think they're slick. It's just after I start talking about MI5 that the money shows up. Like, when I tell you, you can't make this shit up. Can't make this shit up. I combed this flat from top to bottom when I got over here. Next thing I know, I find it in the same place where nothing was. So that's one thing. The second thing is that yesterday, one of the children was yelling, "Fuck off." The way it sounded like they had walked into the room and said, "Fuck off." So it seemed like they were saying it at me. And I think the point was for me to start yelling back and starting an argument and stuff like that. It's just really pathetic at this point. So I feel like they are trying to get reactions out of me. And the thing is, it's like, yeah, I will react. Like, but what they wanted was for me to do like a long internet video and for me to be upset during that video. And I'm like, are you not understanding all the times that you've caused me to react and be upset not only were you actively trafficking a person, because if you're trying to drive someone crazy to allocate them to somewhere else against their will, that is trafficking. And then on top of that, you're transferring them to a place to get them drugged up, you know, doped up on drugs that they didn't need. That's, you know, on top of that, that's bodily harm. And that there are so many things that go into trying to get an internet response. Like, you know, you really wanted me angry enough to section me? That's trafficking. So at the very least, you're trafficking somebody. And, you know, you're trafficking somebody that you barely know. And then on top of that, you're trafficking them because they're right and because you don't like them. So that already is despicable enough. But like, you're also trafficking people. And it's not just them that have done it. It's literally every other neighbor that's done it. So you're involved in trafficking by trying to drive me as crazy as possible, calling me crazy so that nobody else will help me. Or when they do help me, they fuck it up and they make it worse, right? So you're doing that because you don't want to make a martyr out of me when your activities might result in a death. So you're doing all that. You're trafficking a person. You're damaging somebody's reputation willfully. And, you know, you're actively participating in the coercive murder of a person. Because if you're damaging somebody's nerves, you're killing them, right? Slowly. And then on top of that, you're facilitating electronic weaponry. So everything that you're doing is trafficking. It's all that. That's just of one person. This is one person that I'm talking about. Trafficking, stalking, harassment. That's just one person you're doing this against. And then on top of that, we have to consider that the people that you're doing this for, right? They are in league with defense systems that are selling arms all over the world, including to the Israeli Defense Forces and Hamas. So you got these people who are selling weapons to everyone and facilitating in genocides all over the world for their resources. And your gang stalking has facilitated that. It's facilitated in the deaths. No, they need to hear this. You're facilitating in the deaths of thousands of people. At least, if not millions of people. Because we're not just talking about Heze. We're talking about the Congo. We're talking about Sudan. We're talking about Rwanda. Rwanda in particular. We need to have a conversation at some point about Rwanda and frequency weaponry. We need to have a conversation about that because you're facilitating in that shit too. Every single thing that you've done to me is not just trafficking me. It's not just committing crimes against me for your own ego. It ain't just that. It's also you're facilitating in the deaths of people around the globe. And for what? For what? The kids? And again, this is not the only mother that stalked me, you know. This is not the only family that stalked me. Or like, I want to address stalkers that have kids right now. What you're doing is for your kids. Everything that you have done has contributed to the pandemic measures. It's contributed to the war. The war in particular. There are two wars going on. There's one with Heze, which is escalating, right? And then there's the Ukraine, right? So because of those wars that your gang stalking is facilitating, conditions have worsened for everybody. Conditions have worsened for everybody financially. So whilst you're over there talking about my kids, you're not even thinking about the world that you want your kids to grow up in. Because you have it in your delusional mind that your kids are going to be the roses that grow up out of the dirt. The shit don't work like that 9 times out of 10. So what are you doing this for? You also got a rise in homelessness as a direct result of your actions. I've been homeless. I'm proof of that. You got a rise in homelessness, a rise in mental health issues, a rise in crime, a rise in violence, all thanks to gang stalking. So when you're talking about my kids, I'm doing it for my kids, what kind of world are you bringing them up in? Because I guarantee you, if you feel the need to do this, they are not special enough, not talented enough, not intelligent enough to warrant any of what you've done. They are not going to be the roses that grow up out of the dirt. They're going to be the dirt that feeds the rose. Your children will not be those roses. Your children will be amongst the dirt, amongst the dirt. They're going to be amongst the people who are struggling to make ends meet, who are going to be having children they can't afford, who are going to be contributing to crime rates, who are going to be sick and dying. Those are the populations of people that 9 times out of 10, your children and your grandchildren are going to be a part of. Please stop lying to yourselves. And it's all because of your own actions. They don't give a shit about other people, especially about ordinary people. It's ordinary people involved. It's ordinary people involved. And you're saying it's about power. Yes, it is about power. Yeah, it is about power. It's about the illusion of power specifically, though. So you're right about that. You're definitely right about that. Sorry, it's Jemmy Keisha. Sorry, I'm pronouncing that. I don't want to butcher your name. But yeah, like whatever's going on here with me, you got bigger issues to worry about than what I'm saying, what I'm doing, or what online rants I'm getting up to. You got bigger things to worry about, my darlings. You got your priorities fucked up. You got your priorities fucked up. You need to get your priorities straight. You know what I mean? Homelessness, you know, and defense systems are doing very well thanks to your behavior. They're doing very, very well. In fact, they're among the few stocks that are actually going up while everything else is going down. Quelle surprise. All thanks to you. All thanks to perps of every single color, every single creed, every single distinction. In fact, if you are black and a gang stalker for MI5, leave civil rights out your mouth. If you are Muslim, or even a Jewish person of any distinction, and you have been involved in gang stalking, leave Palestine out your mouth. Because your actions have directly contributed to their suffering. Hell, you could be white or brown or what have you. Just keep any social issues out your mouth. You need to stay there and lie in the bed that you've made. Just lie in the bed that you've made. Shut the fuck up and say nothing. Because we all know you're not going to bring up the gang stalking. You're not going to admit to anything. Very few of you are going to admit to anything. Certainly not enough of you to make a difference. So just sit there and stay where you're better acquainted. And watch and learn as your children and your grandchildren become part of the dirt. Your children are not the roses. And they will not amount to anything exceptional as a result of your actions. You can get that out of your head right now. If anything, the amount of poverty and disease and death that is coming their way. Again, you have bigger things to worry about than me. Way bigger. Now we can move on. So, the reason why I actually made this video, right, is because somebody talked about reciprocity, right? Now, this isn't TI related now. I've already talked about my update and I did my little rant. Now we're going to talk about why I actually started the video. There was this post online that talked about reciprocity and basically said that the line, they don't owe you anything, is basically gaslighting, and it's selfish, and it's narcissistic. Well, they didn't say narcissistic, but they said it's inherently selfish and a horrible indication of individualism. And I just want to... Billions of dollars are made by warfare and spyware, but on God, war is big business, and spying on people also Facts. Facts. All of it. All of it. You're right there. Absolutely right. Absolutely correct. But sorry, I covered up the microphone. Sorry, what was I saying before? Oh, yeah. Yeah, so basically, the whole purpose of reciprocity is that if you give to someone, you have every right to expect that they'll give to you and all that kind of stuff. And they said, you know what? It's not owing, it's basic decency. And I found it really, really interesting because, first of all, I think this person is right. I think that if you are kind to somebody, they should be kind to you. I feel like, yeah, that is common decency. But there is a reason why we've adopted this hyper individualistic, nobody owes you anything bollocks, okay? Now, I've said it multiple times, nobody owes me anything. But I think there are multiple layers to this. I think people who are abusive say, I don't owe you anything, because it gets them out of the shame of having to confront the lack of reciprocity that they've given to others. So they tell themselves that to ease the trauma of wrongdoing and to ease the trauma of, you know, being selfish and, you know, and doing what they choose to do. Do you understand what I'm saying? So it's a way for abusive and selfish people to tell themselves, oh, you know, it's okay that I do these things to people. It's okay that I'm not giving them what they deserve. It's okay that I'm treating them as less than. But then there are also survivors and victims of abuse telling themselves, nobody owes me anything as well. They're subscribing to that same narrative, but it's for different reasons. That's for self-preservation, because I'm going to go back to a philosopher called Seneca. Seneca worked for a Roman emperor. I can't remember what that Roman emperor's name was, but this philosopher Seneca talked about the benefits of pessimism. I'm going somewhere with this. Okay. So he talked about the benefits of pessimism, right? And he said that the less you expect is the less angry you are. And the less angry you are, the more at peace you are, right? Now, I watched this documentary with Alain de Botton, I think his name is. Or Alain Botton, I don't know. It's a Swiss name. But, is it Swiss? I don't know. But it's, you know, he explored Seneca's philosophies. And one example that he used was the difference between first-class passengers and economy passengers. And he said that a study was done in which first-class passengers were actually angrier than the economy passengers, because the economy passengers expected less and the first-class passengers were getting more, so they expected more. I've talked about this in my readings, in my tarot readings, the never enough syndrome. You know, the more you have is the more you feel like you lack. And I don't know how that works, but it does work like that sometimes. So, coming back to the reciprocity thing, I think the reason why victims and survivors tell themselves that, you know, nobody owes me anything, and they speak that rhetoric of, you know, nobody owes me anything. I think it's because it's our way of managing the disappointment of people not treating us with basic decency, of people not even helping us when we're being abused, or not helping us when we're being mistreated. I feel like this nobody owes me anything, it does help us cope, because if we lower our expectations in human decency, and we lower our expectations in human morality, or we lower our expectations for people helping us, then what it enables us to do, it enables us to lessen our anger, to move forward with our lives, and to do for ourselves. Do you understand what I mean? Like, it allows us to do that. Because with the acknowledgement, sometimes with the acknowledgement of how human decency is supposed to work, sometimes what comes with that is, how do I put this? With the acknowledgement of human decency comes the expectation of human decency. And if you constantly expect human decency and you don't get it, it does make you angry. It does make you frustrated. You do end up swimming in a lot of toxic energy inside yourself. The stress levels keep elevating because you keep believing the best in people. You keep expecting the best in people. And, you know, when you are constantly disappointed, you're constantly angry. I often look at people who are cynical, and not just cynical, but they're angry with the cynicism. And I'm like, you're not fooling anybody, mate. You're just a disappointed optimist. You're fooling no one. You're just a disappointed optimist. That's what you are. And you're disappointed because you expected people to be better than they actually were. You took it for granted that people know right from wrong, or people know like what's supposed to be done, or people know this, or people know that. You take it for granted that people are more intelligent and more morally astute than they are. So you take that for granted and you constantly expect that, only to end up constantly disappointed. Of course that's going to give rise to cynicism. It's just a disappointed romantic, and that's all there is to it. But for a victim and a survivor to tell themselves nobody owes me anything, it allows them to dissipate their anger, and it allows them to cope. I'm not saying that you know, nobody owes me anything or nobody owes you anything. I'm not saying that that's inherently correct. What I am saying is that it's not as simple as just doing away with that phrase and saying we should expect human decency. Do you know what I mean? Because it's, you know, it's not that simple. Another factor that we have to think about, and this is a very uncomfortable factor for us to deal with, it comes back to desire. Now, we don't just have desires as to who we want to have sex with or who we want to have relationships with. We also have desires as to who we want to be friends with, and as to what kind of company we want to keep. And quite often there's a disconnect between who we want to spend time with and who we end up spending time with. And as unfair as it is, a lot of people have this mindset that whoever happens to be around them is not good enough for them, because it doesn't fit their mental idea of the kind of life they want to live, the kind of people that find themselves attracted to them. They don't fulfill, you know, that person's desires of how they want to be seen or how they want to project onto the rest of the world. So they end up taking those people for granted, because those people are not what I wanted. So those people who are not wanted necessarily, they're taken for granted when they do something kind, and when they do something, you know, when they do something correct, and when they, you know, when they show up for people, they're not appreciated, because a lot of people see them as somebody who's just there and not aspirational. Because remember, we live in a world that's aspirational and wants to, you know, strive to get somewhere. And that includes everything in our lives, our friends, our family, our, you know, our relationships, our sex lives, all of these things. In a world like this, you know, we are trained to strive towards what's aspirational to us. Do you understand what I mean? And if we find that our friends are not aspirational, or they're not the type of people we want to be around, we do take them for granted. And I know a lot of people are going to be saying, well, who's we? Who's we? Every fucking body, bitch. People are mean. We're shallow and we're mean. So when we get shallowness and meanness and lack of gratitude for what we actually have, that is one thing that results in lack of reciprocity. Because, you know, you're taking these wonderful people who have been there for you and who have supported you, you're taking them for granted. All the while, you're chasing after people who don't know you, don't care, or because you want to be them, or you want what they represent. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that's another thing that causes lack of reciprocity. And again, when you are a victim of that, this "they don't owe me anything," it helps to manage that too, because even though it's not true and they actually owe you quite a bit, it helps you manage your anger and it helps you manage your emotions. It helps you move through life. And, you know, because when you don't expect too much, you're able to just have a clear enough mind to be able to utilize what you already have right in front of you. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's something to be said for our desires and how that plays a part in whether or not we take one another for granted. It's actually a very big thing. And, you know, and I'm not saying we shouldn't want better for our lives. I'm not saying that, but I feel like we don't have enough respect for desire. We don't have enough respect for it, because if we did, we would see that a lot of what we're surrounded by are either answers to our prayers or they're answers to our expectations. That's, you know, whatever we expect and whatever we want, God will directly give it to us in a way that's realistic for us. So our prayers are being answered all the time. What's the point in our prayers being answered if we're just going to wipe our ass with them? So it's down to lack of gratitude and down to, you know, lack of perception and lack of self-awareness that causes, I don't owe you anything. Nobody owes you anything. This world ain't going to do you no favors. Do you know what I mean? I will continue in my mind to remember that human beings will always serve their own interests. And, you know, I will also think about what serves my interests as well, because that's helping me survive. I feel like that's what's going to help a lot of TI survive, is if we put our interests first. Because truth be told, the more you need something is the more you're going to lack. So you've got to give it to yourself if you're not getting it from outside. You feel me? So anyway, I gotta go. I've already done my daily readings, so go ahead and check them out. I'm going to leave the links in the description for my readings and stuff. But yeah. Is there anything else to add? No, I don't think there is. So I'm going to go. Peace and blessings. I love you guys so much. Bye-bye.